I got the best damage loadout for each class in Terraria. These loadouts are made for pure DPS and don't have any defense or mobility accessories, making it very hard to defeat bosses. So for this video, I'll have God mode on to make it easier so we can test just the damage, and we'll see how fast I can defeat Moonlord with each weapon. Then I'll do some DPS testing at the end of the video to show them off even more. The loadouts will be what I found to be the best weapon for each class. For melee, it will be, of course, the Zenith, since it's the best weapon in the game, so I don't expect any other class to come close. But one of the classes did end up surprising me. For Mage Class, I'll be using the Last Prism. This is one of the best multi-target weapons in the game and still shreds single target, making it great against anything from the Moonlord to the Pillars. For Ranger Class, I decided on the Space Dolphin machine gun. I could have used this or the Celebration Mark 10, but the SDMG performed much better when testing, so I decided on it. For Summoner, I decided to use the Terra Prisma. This was the hardest choice since I could have gone with the Stardust Dragon, Terra Prisma, or even the Stardust Cell Staff, but I ended up finding the Terra Prisma was the most consistent, and I'll be using it with the Kaleidoscope Whip. Summoner could be better with whip stacking, and Ranger could be improved by switching to I-Core bullets to tag Moonlord, but I decided against switching during the fight since that means with melee class, I would normally use a summon or a gun or bow with I-Core bullets to make the fight easier, similar to how in Summoner I would use multiple whips to whip stack. So to make it fair and more even, I will not be switching ammo or weapons for any of the fights for any class. To prevent switching in Summoner class, I'll summon the summons before the fight, and then I won't switch off the whip for the entire fight. All the weapons will have their best modifier, and the accessories will all be menacing and the best ones for pure damage. One final thing I want to mention is that I could have mixed armor in the classes with some Old One Armies pieces for more damage, but I decided to just use a full set of each class's pillar armor instead. It was time to start the fights, and I'll start out with the longest fight, which ended up being the Summoner class. This really surprised me since I thought Ranger would take the longest. The loadout I used for Summoner was a mythical Terra Prisma, a legendary Kaleidoscope, Stardust Armor, Summoner Emblem, Avenger Emblem, Warrior Emblem, Celestial Shell, Necromantic Scroll, Hercules Beetle, and Papyrus Scarab. I'm going to use the emblems and Celestial Shell in every class for this video. These accessories for Summoner give me more damage and more Summoner slots. The damage in this fight ended up staying consistent but pretty low, with maxing out around 6,000 damage per second, which is why this boss fight took so long. And it ended in a time of 51 seconds. This is by far the longest out of the four, but still not that bad for the final boss. Next up is the Ranger fight. I used the Unreal SDMG, Luminite bullets, Vortex armor, the emblems, a Celestial Cell, Eye of Golem, Recon scope, and a Sniper scope. I used the emblems and scopes for extra damage, and the Golem Eye gave extra crit chance. Some people might use Chlorophyte bullets, but they are much worse than Luminite bullets or even I-Core bullets. Chlorophyte bullets do the same as silver ones, which you get right at the beginning of the game. A bonus from the Vortex armor is I can use Stealth mode, which buffs my damage by 80% and crit chance by 20%. This fight was a lot faster than the Summoner fight with the final time of 36 seconds, nearly 20 seconds faster than the Summoner fight. Next up is the Mage one, and this fight really surprised me. I used the mythical Last Prism, Nebula armor, emblems, including a Celestial emblem, a Celestial Shell, Mana Flower, and an Eye of Golem. The Last Prism is commonly referred to as the second best weapon in Terraria, and this fight backs that up pretty well. It absolutely shredded through the Moonlord like butter, and ended in a final time of only 26 seconds, almost half of the Summoner fight and 10 seconds faster than the Ranger fight. Now for the final fight, and the one that I expected to blow away the others, the melee fight. The loadout consisted of a legendary Zenith, solar flare armor, emblems, a celestial cell, fire gauntlet, eye of golem, and a berserker's glove. This is pretty similar to my normal loadout other than the lack of Ankh shield and mobility items. In this fight, ended up beating out the last prism by only 2 seconds with the final time of 24 seconds. This is actually half the time of the summoner loadout, showing how powerful the Zenith really is. Now for some DPS tests. I'll start out with multi-target, then go to single target. I won't do multi-target for summoner since the Terra Prisma wouldn't do very well. For melee, I ended up getting around 430 to 600,000 damage per second depending on crits, but I peaked at 700,000 damage per second, which is insane for a loadout that isn't very hard to get in vanilla Terraria. Ranger ended up getting around 150 to 200,000 damage per second with Vortex bullets due to their insane piercing and the super high crits, since I pretty much had a 100% crit rate chance due to the stealth mode of Vortex armor, and this damage was insane for Ranger class. Next is the Mage Class, which got about 450,000 damage per second, which is pretty good, though the damage did drop slightly as it went as I got more mana sickness. The damage stayed super high and didn't get quite to the range that the Zenith did, but got close. On single target, the last prism still got up to around 13,000 damage per second, which is just insane for a weapon that's primarily used for multi-target. For Ranger, I was getting around 11,000 damage as well on the single target, getting a little bit less than the Mage. Once again, the SCMG with Luminite bullets is meant to be a multi-target weapon, so 10,000 damage per second on single target is very good, and it peaked at around 11,000. The Zenith beat all of these out, peaking at around 30,000 damage per second, but mostly getting close to 27,000. This is with a pretty specific attack pattern where you move your cursor towards the corner of the screen, so then it's the very end of the Zenith hitting the target, and this gives the most damage. Summoner didn't get nearly as much damage as any of the others, peaking at around 8,000 damage per second. This, of course, would be better with something like whip stacking for extra damage, but for just the attacking of the Kaleidoscope and Terra Prisma, the damage never got very high, especially not compared to the Zenith, but this was only doing a few thousand less damage than Mage and Ranger. If you like what you saw and want to see more weapon comparisons like this, click the link on the bottom left. The bottom right are maxing stats out in Terraria. The top left is what YouTube thinks you want to watch next. The top right's a subscribe button. Thanks for watching. Be sure to like and subscribe for more.